welcome back to my channel and to the Regency Girl Summer. We are going to be reading all of Jane Austen's books over the course of the summer. And I mean, it's currently April right now, but the book club that I'm in picked Northanger Abbey for May, so I'm going to get a head start and read this for May, and then we'll continue reading through the rest of the books through the summer. I started Northanger Abbey last night, and I've reached chapter 2, which is not very far. But I did really enjoy the first chapter. It was funny. We already had like a lot about Catherine's character, and when she was younger, she loved nothing so well in the world as rolling down the green slope at the back of the house. How fun is that? And then I do have several quotes to share, just 3, which I know is quite a lot for one chapter, but it is a relatively short book. So the first quote is the very first line in the novel. "No one who had ever seen Catherine Morland in her infancy would have supposed her born to be an heroine," which is on page 7, which it honestly bugs me that these pages don't start on page 1, like most books do, but it's fine. And then on page 9, "Provided that nothing like useful knowledge could be gained from them, provided they were all story and no reflection, she had never any objection to books at all." Love that. And then on page 11, "If adventures will not befall a young lady in her own village, she must seek them abroad." Just love that. So far we've already learned about like Catherine, her family, her character, what she was like when she was younger, how she's changed, and we've kind of learned she already likes to read a lot. That's pretty much all I have so far in one chapter. But I am really excited to just dive back into the world of Austen. I'll be back with more updates when I read more. I have already developed a slight tabbing system, which I will show you guys in a second. I have like 2 colors that I don't have anything for, but I don't know if I will ever get anything for them, or they'll just be like extra colors. So red is quotes, orange is character description or development, yellow is funny, tan is themes. I did look on Spark Notes for like themes, and gothic novels and youth are both themes. Brown is for like gothic like architecture or just any like gothic themes. And then blue is marriage / use in a paper, because I've been writing a paper all about Pride and Prejudice and marriage in Pride and Prejudice. So if I ever want to expand that paper and talk about marriage that covers all her novels, and then I will already have tabbed that so I can just easily flip back to it. And then pink, of course, is anything I love. That could be quotes, scenes, romance, anything that falls under the broad category of love. So yeah, I'm super excited. I just love this cover, by the way. It is The Letter by Charles, oh my gosh, this is probably French, Bonnier. But I just love like the gothic vibes of the cover. It's just stunning. Okay, I think that's all I have to say for now. I'll see you guys in a few seconds. I have an unboxing for you guys. 3 more of my Jane Austen books came in the mail. So let's open them, shall we? I did get these from Pango Books. Woo. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is Emma. She's a lot chunkier than I expected. Oh my goodness. Wow. Oh my gosh. Then, okay, the introduction. Oh my gosh. The introduction is this thick. Like, do you see? That's how big the introduction is. That's insane. And then we have Pride and Prejudice. This is like my 4th edition. It is insane, but I love the book so much. And then we have Persuasion, which I am so excited to get to because I've heard this is like a second chance romance that I am honestly so excited to read. Also, I just love the cover of this. The cover of Northanger Abbey in this collection and Sense and Sensibility I think are my favorite. I love these colors together. Like I didn't think Pride and Prejudice was gonna be green because based on the picture it looked more like tan, but I do love the green color, I gotta say. Welcome back everyone. I have a update for you guys for Northanger Abbey. I am currently on page 80. We are in the middle of a scene. I probably should have finished the chapter before I updated you guys, but stuff is making me mad, so I'm gonna come on here and talk about it. So far, it's been so good. It's hilarious, and you're really seeing Jane Austen's humor come through in this one. Like, there was this line that Mr. Tilney says, and he says, "What a picture of intellectual poverty." I don't know why I love that. I just think it's just a beautifully worded, like, sarcastic comment, you know? And I have several other quotes to get to, but I really hate John Thorpe. Both the Thorpes are just kind of not the best people. They're not people I would want to spend any length of time with, especially John Thorpe. He's just kind of manipulative, and he's like manipulating Catherine to spend time with him when she clearly, through her inner monologue, we know, does not want to spend time with him. Like, she was just persuaded to go on a carriage ride with the Thorpes and her brother James, and she passed because originally she was supposed to go on a walk with Mr. and Miss Tilney, who Mr. Tilney is like the love interest, but it was only if it didn't rain, and unfortunately it rained that morning. So she was like, well, I don't know, like, should I go, should I not go? And so they persuade her. He specifically says, like, oh, you know, I saw them in a carriage heading like the opposite direction. Clearly they're not interested anymore. And so she's like, oh, really? Well, that stinks. Okay, I guess I'll go with you. So she goes, but on the way, when they're like leaving in the carriage, she sees Mr. and Miss Tilney, and she's like, stop the carriage. And what does John Thorpe do? He keeps driving. No, he doesn't just keep driving. He like urges the horses to go faster. I'm like, jump out of the carriage, girl. Like, just run after Mr. Tilney, okay? Oh my gosh. I want to scream at him. I'm like, Catherine, girl, stand up for yourself. Just, and I think that is like a theme of Catherine's youth, is she's very like naive and she doesn't understand things fully. And everyone around her is kind of just content to like manipulate her a little bit. Even Isabella Thorpe, she's kind of acting like she's Catherine's best friend, but I'm not sold, although there are several quotes that I do like about friendship that she said. For example, on page 34, she says, "There is nothing I would not do for those who are really my friends. I have no notion of loving people by halves. It is not my nature. My attachments are always excessively strong." On page 27, this is no one talking. "Friendship is certainly the finest balm for the pangs of disappointed love." This is just another quote I really loved. Also on page 34, "I am delighted with the book. I should like to spend my whole life in reading it. I assure you, if it had not been to meet you, I would not have come away with it for all the world." I just love that so much. And even Catherine describes John Thorpe as being very disagreeable. which I totally agree with because he's honestly more annoying than Mr. Collins, and I did not like Mr. Collins. But John Thorpe, don't like him. Okay, this is also just a quote. So this is at a ball when Catherine is about to dance with Mr. Tilney, and John Thorpe, you know, keeps nagging her, and Austen writes, "Every young lady may feel for my heroine in this crucial moment, for every young lady has, at some time or other, known the same agitation. All have been, or at least all have believed themselves to be, in danger from the pursuit of some one whom they wish to avoid, and all have been anxious for the attentions of some one whom they wish to please." And then she goes on to say, "As soon as they were joined by the Thorpes, Catherine's agony began." I don't like the Thorpes. They can all just go away. But I have made several notes, and since this is for a book club, I'm really like reading into the different themes and things. She also draws a really interesting comparison between an engagement for marriage and dancing, which I thought was really interesting, and that's on page 71. It's like the whole Act 70 and 71, so I won't read the whole entire thing, but that's where it is. What chapter is that? This is chapter 9 that's in. I just love Tilney and Catherine's like dynamic. I think she takes things too seriously. Like, she doesn't have a lot of that like sense of humor that I think Tilney has, because he's very sarcastic. At least that's how it's coming off to me. And especially in the audiobook, like the narrator makes him very sarcastic. So again, that could just be what I'm getting out of it, but I think he's like a very sarcastic person, especially the whole, what a picture of intellectual poverty. Here's a little tabbing update. I don't know, do you guys like seeing my tabbing progress? I caved and bought these like muted tabs, and I think they go really well with the book versus like the bright tabs that I use for like my other books, or even like War and Peace, since the cover is like pretty muted. If it was like a bright blue or something, I would use like the rainbow ones, but I think the more muted tones fit the classic vibe. That's all I have to say at this point. I'm about 29% through the book. We're really enjoying it, and it's making me want to just devour all of Austen's books, which is the goal of my summer, is to read all of Austen's books. And yeah, I cannot wait. Oh my gosh. I think maybe next I'll read Persuasion, because I've heard that so many people like it more than Pride and Prejudice, which I find really interesting because it's like a second chance romance, and I don't know. I mean, I like a second chance romance if the conditions are right, and I think in Persuasion they are, so hopefully I'll enjoy that. But of course, Elizabeth and Darcy just have a place in my heart, and I think they always will. And that was my first Austen book. I think it'll just stay with me forever. And so far, the 2007 adaptation of Northanger Abbey, which I did watch before going into this book, and I think that's a tip to reading classics, is to watch an adaptation before you dive into the book, if you don't really mind spoiling yourself, because I mean, with some books it's pretty obvious how the story is gonna go, but with some it's not. Guys, welcome back. I have finished Northanger Abbey. I was hoping to update you guys more as I read, but it's so short that it's kind of hard to, so I'll just give like my overall thoughts right now. First off, I gave this 5 stars. Was it as good as Pride and Prejudice? No. But my enjoyment of the book was a 5-star, if that makes sense. I do think, since it is Austen's first written work, it does lack the like maturity and the complexity that at least Pride and Prejudice has. Again, I've only read Pride and Prejudice, so that's the only book I have to compare it to, but I have watched several of the other movies, so I do kind of know the plot lines. What did I love about this book? I loved the humor and the gothic not parody, but the satire and kind of poking fun at the Gothic genre, because Catherine over here, she's like trying to play at being Nancy Drew, and she's like, oh my gosh, there's this cabinet and it's so mysterious, and once I open it I'll find all these clues. But then she opens it and it's like empty. So I was just like, Catherine. So since this was read for a book club, I did kind of have some questions. Number one being, what is John Thorpe's purpose? Like, why is he so annoying? Like, I need to do more research into that. But he is just... Both of the Thorpe siblings, I mean, they have like younger siblings, but Isabella and John, don't even get me started, okay? They are just the absolute worst. I cannot stand them. Every time they were on the page, I just wanted to like vomit. I'm like, ugh, go away. I mean, while John is like very obviously not a good person, Isabella kind of like, she's kind of two-faced. She really says one thing, but she means another. Like, there was this whole scene, because she was engaged to Catherine's brother, and she was like, oh yes, money is never a problem. I shall be married to him tomorrow, if only for 50 pounds, if only I could just marry him right now. Money is no big deal. But then, obviously we know money is a big deal because she doesn't have a lot of money. So I'm just like, Isabella, we all know you're lying. It just made me so mad. Because then, of course, she ditches James for Captain Tilney. Not to be confused with Henry Tilney. Captain Tilney is the oldest brother. She, like, has a fling with him. Then at the end, she's like, oh, Catherine, I always loved your brother. Captain Tilney meant nothing. Oh, he's so dreadful, you know. He just kept pursuing me, and I, being so in love with your brother, I just had to keep resisting him. Obviously, she didn't resist him. I just don't want to deal with them. Catherine was very, like, she lacked, obviously she's a very naive character. Of course, she's also hilarious because she reads so much that her head is just kind of full of these fantasies. And of course, there were so many quotes about reading that I just loved in this book. It also didn't give me as satisfying of an ending as the 2007 movie did, because I was expecting a little bit more romance at the end, just because that's what the movie had, which again, that's like my fault for going in with like expectations. But it was a little bit unsatisfying. Of course, Henry and Catherine end up together. Their romance wasn't, I would say, the focal point of the story. I really enjoyed Henry's character because he's so funny and sarcastic, and I think him and Catherine pair well together. But again, they're just no Elizabeth and Darcy, you know? Like, will anyone ever compare? I don't know. I've heard Persuasion is better, so we'll have to see. I'm actually going to be reading that next for another book club. Okay, so I did just want to recap some of my favorite quotes. So this is on page 20. Henry and Catherine are dancing together, and he says, I must give one smirk, and then we may be rational again. I just love that so much. And then on page 24, this is a quote about marriage. No young lady can be justified in falling in love before the gentleman's love is declared. It must be very improper that a young lady should dream of a gentleman before the gentleman is first known to have dreamt of her. And obviously this isn't the case for Henry and Catherine, because Henry kind of only falls in love with Catherine because Catherine is in love with Henry, which is also kind of interesting. Because yeah, there was definitely, I think, more affection shown on Catherine's part than there was on Henry's. Of course, Henry was just hilarious all the time, very sarcastic, but the romance was just lacking. So definitely go into this knowing that if you're expecting like this beautiful romance, it's definitely not as present in here as it is in, I would say, the movie. Okay, this is on page 35. Where the heart is really attached, I know very well how little one can be pleased with the attention of anybody else. Everything is so insipid, so uninteresting, that it does not relate to the beloved object. And then I loved this quote because this is where Catherine kind of realizes that she's been tricked by John Thorpe. And she says, because this is another situation where Catherine is supposed to go off with the Thorpe, or she's supposed to go off with the Tilneys, excuse me. And the Thorpes, again, come up and they're like, oh, Catherine, we must go to the Blaze Castle, and you must come with us. Don't worry about your prior engagement. We'll lie to them and say you already had an engagement with us. So John Thorpe, against Catherine's will, goes to tell the Tilneys that Catherine can't make it. And Catherine's like, no. She's like, I'm gonna go after them. And she says, if I could not be persuaded into doing what I thought wrong, I will never be tricked into it. And I just love that so much. So this was me screaming at Catherine to not trust John Thorpe. Of course, she did. I'll skip the most iconic lines because obviously like everyone knows them. Like the person, be it gentleman or lady, who has not had pleasure in a good novel must be intolerably stupid. And this is just something that Henry says that's kind of like, it just, I feel like it encapsulates his personality. This is a very nice day and we are taking a very nice walk and you are two very nice young ladies. Oh, it is a very nice word indeed. It does for everything. Originally perhaps it was applied only to express neatness, propriety, delicacy, or refinement. People were nice in their dresses, in their sentiments, or their choice. And now every commendation on every subject is comprised in that one word. This is just some writing that I loved. It's not necessarily a quote. Page 113. The two friends, with hearts now more united than ever, were inseparable for the day, and in schemes of sisterly happiness the hours flew along. And again, that quote is in relation to Isabella, which I just, but it's a good quote and I like it. And then there's this quote where, let's see, I think Catherine says it? I forgot the context of their conversation, but she says, I cannot speak well enough to be unintelligible. This is a quote that Henry says, you have gained a new source of enjoyment and it is well to have as many holds upon happiness as possible. Just love that. And then this is what John says to Catherine, which I don't really like John because he kind of betrayed Catherine like when she needed him the most to stand up for her. But he does say, dearest Catherine, beware how you give your heart. So yeah, those are some of just my final thoughts on the book. I don't know how long this vlog will end up being because it wasn't a very long book and I didn't have a ton to say, but hopefully that just gives you a good picture of what the book is about. I hope you'll pick it up and I can't wait to discuss it with our book club. Well, that is all I have to say for today. Again, I enjoyed it a lot, and I cannot wait to read more Austen. Persuasion will be up on the ballot next. Did ask you guys on Instagram for your favorite books. I want to do a video where I read your favorite books. I did ask specifically bookstagrammers, but if you guys want to chime in, just leave a comment and I will tally those up. I will see you guys in my next video. Ciao!